And wait just 1 second as some people filter in. All right, we're going to go ahead and start to kick things off. We'll start off with some housekeeping items, just so you guys all know that are here today. We will be recording this, and we will send a recording of the webinar out to you, usually within a few days. So if you miss anything, you'll be able to share it with your team after that. If you have any questions, you can drop those into chat as we're going through. This is, I think, the 5th or 6th webinar in our series, where we're educating you on some best practices within the staffing industry. Pretty quick hits, should last about 15 to 20 minutes, then we'll jump into questions. And I'm super excited to be joined today with Rachel Arnold.
Hello. It's nice to be here.
All right, so let's go ahead and jump in. I know you're all here to learn about how you can lower your cost per hire and reduce your dependency on job boards. So let's jump in. Um, Before we get into the how-to and kind of the specifics, one of the things I want to know is, or want you to think about is if you are measuring your cost of hire and if you're doing it accurately. We talk to a lot of companies that say we're measuring our cost of hire, but they're not necessarily doing it by channel. They're just looking at overall cost of hire. And one of the things we really recommend, and I hope you'll take away from this, is that it's important to look at your cost of hire through a few different lenses. One of those being by channel. So what's your cost of hire by source? So Indeed, Vivian, referrals, et cetera. And then also zooming out and looking at your cost of hire from a more realistic perspective. Something that a lot of companies tell us is that they know their cost of hire, but they aren't always considering all of the costs that are associated with actually hiring somebody. When it comes to your cost of hire, typically there's two different costs that are associated with that. There's the hard cost, which most of us are pretty good at measuring, which is how much did I spend on that job board posting and how many people did I get hired? For instance, say I'm on Indeed, I spend $1,000, I hired 10 people. My cost of hire is $100 per head. But the reality is, in that process, about half of the costs associated for that hire are actually driven from what we call soft costs. So that's going to be your recruiter time spent on hiring and the cost to fill the role. And the reason this is important is it varies significantly based off of the source of your hire. And if you're going to compare apples to apples and be strategic with your sourcing strategy, it's really important that you are focused on measuring all of the costs associated with that. Some of the metrics you'll want to think about with that are the placement rate, time to fill, and then also looking at the redeployment rates and what the actual value of that is as well.
Yeah, what I think is interesting too, I don't know the last time that maybe any of you on this call have gone to a specific job board and actually sourced. It's really overwhelming. Like the last couple of times that I can remember, like going to look for talent, it's probably way longer than we actually think it is, but getting lost in the shuffle of all of the different things to search through. And then like you have this huge list of people. Uh, so it's just something to consider whenever you're thinking about what your team is actually doing to try to fill an order.
Absolutely. And as with most things, the step one in figuring out how to reduce your cost per hire is having a clear understanding of what your cost per hire is and making sure you're keeping in mind how many interviews and et cetera did it take to actually get that person in place. So now we're going to jump into what you came here for, the 7 ways to lower the hard and soft costs of recruiting. So number one, we talk about this a lot, but improving your employer brand is such a critical element for reducing the cost per hire. One of the reasons why is people go to work at places that have good reputation. So if you have a great online reputation, it's going to more likely that people are going to come apply direct to your website, which is going to reduce your cost per hire. It's more likely that you're going to have redeployments and have higher retention. And essentially, you're also going to drive referrals because you have a good brand.
Yeah, for sure. If you think about the brands that you recognize, right? So the more that you are promoting yourself, getting reviews, if people go and Google you, if they see your name and they see it often, and there's good feedback, or even if there's negative feedback, but you've replied to it, right? That helps to promote your brand.
Absolutely. And number two is investing in recruitment marketing. We see a lot of agencies that spend all of their time focused on optimizing your job boards and job board spend, which is something that you absolutely should and must do. But if you're looking at kind of a longer term approach to reducing your overall cost per hire, having a true recruitment marketing strategy can be critical for this. Um, we come from a background of, I had a marketing agency before this and did marketing for staffing firms. And a few of the things that you can think about with this is if you're able to build resources that are valuable for your talent pipeline, that they will come to your website and download. Now you are starting to get people that come to you free through SEO, and it's also a longer term play. Couple examples of this, if you're in travel nursing, could be a best travel nurse jobs or best travel nurse cities. If you are light industrial, you might be doing some best practices or training materials that your candidates need. Salary guides are another common thing when we see that in the professional side, where you have a Denver salary guide for Ruby on Rails developers or whatever it may be. But things along those terms where the audience you want to get to your site needs this information, and you can get them there then without having to pay the job boards. And you start to get that organic application, and you can overall reduce the overall cost per hire.
Yeah, and even thinking about even like the smaller locations, maybe not the best cities, but if you have openings in an area that's maybe more rural, like what are the great things about that? So if somebody were to Google it, you're going to pop up, right? Really thinking outside the box to become that agency they can lean on to have the resources, even if they're not quite ready to go work for you.
Absolutely. And if any of you are thinking about this, a great resource to go check out, HubSpot has an inbound certification course. I think that education can be really impactful for what your marketing strategy should look like for staffing agencies. So next up, focus on referrals. Obviously, this one's near and dear to us, but just want to kind of give you a perspective on this that sometimes is missed. When it comes to referral placements, we all know that they're continually rated the top highest quality of hire. But one thing that you don't really think about is how much time does it take to hire somebody based off of the source of that hire. If you're getting somebody from a job board, on average, it takes 100 applications to get one hire. Based off of our data, a referral, you're going to see 12 applications equals one hire. So think about the time that recruiters spend on those applications, the time, number of interviews they have to go through. And then to top it off, you also look at the redeployment rates. And what we're seeing in our platform right now is that referrals are staying on contract for about 50% longer than placements from job boards. And that is because they are going to work with friends. They're getting referred to places that their friends think they're a good fit. So it just tends to be a higher quality source of hire. But when we're talking about focus on referrals, it's just important to look at all of your sources and then start looking at these different metrics so that you can be more strategic with your approach.
Totally. I mean, all of this stuff kind of plays on each other, right? Like having a good brand, make sure that you get more referrals. And then doing this proactive style, like blogs and becoming a resource allows you to have this proactive recruiting plan in place. So you're not so consistently doing this reactive approach where you get an order, you're trying to fill it. I was recently talking to a customer a couple of weeks ago, and they were complaining to me about the amount of money that they're spending on a job board. And I was like, well, tell me about the process here. Like, what are you guys doing? And I was pretty shocked to hear that every time that the team was working on an order, they would send it to marketing and marketing would then post it. And I was like, what is the lag time here on this? And they were like, I don't know, like a day, maybe two. And I was like, so by the time you post the job, just so we're clear, it's probably already filled. And they're like, yeah, probably so. But they were spending money on it, right? And I was like, you guys, we got to rethink this approach. So even just like thinking about how you are promoting your jobs on job boards and on social media, like making sure that you have a plan in place there so you're not so reactively doing that.
Absolutely. And next up, improving your candidate experience is another way you can reduce your overall spend on job boards. One of the key elements here is I always call it the cart abandonment from my days at Hotel Engine. But essentially, candidates are coming to your website. 1 in 4 are rating that they're having a bad experience when applying for a job. 42% of those candidates are saying that they would never apply to that company again because the experience is so bad. What we know is that 60 to 90% of talent will abandon your application process on average. So if you are not focused on what the candidate experience is on your website, you are missing out and you are missing talent that comes to your website. One of our partners that we work with that does an excellent job of improving the candidate experience is Staffing Future. It's an integration partner for staffing referrals and somebody we recommend if you're looking at websites or improving this process. But it's just really critical. If you haven't gone to your website recently and applied for a job, go do that today. Time yourself, look at the experience, see how it feels. If it's not what you want it to be, then there's room for improvement here. Simply improving this process can increase the number of candidates that you get through your website immediately and have a fairly significant impact on reducing your job board spend.
Yeah, totally. And when you think about like the job board spend, that usually when you get a candidate in, they still need to do something that's part of your process, right? And if you're making that process hard, like I'm a true millennial, things have to be easy for me or else you've lost me 5 seconds ago, right? And I'm proud of being that millennial. But like if somebody goes to upload a resume, this is one we come across often, and they go to upload it and the fields don't actually go anywhere. Oh no, it's not great, right? So definitely go through your process to make sure that you are making it as frictionless as possible. So if you need them to do additional things other than what the job board or the other source is collecting, that it is really super easy for them.
And next up, we've got AI matchmaking. One of the areas that we've seen the top performing staffing firms really focus on is making sure that they've cleaned up their database and that they are helping their recruiters prioritize who to reach out to. And they're doing that. One of the tools, another company that we partner with, is called Opus Match. And what they'll do is actually rank your talent based off of the job so that your recruiters can spend time building relationships instead of digging through your database, figuring out who to reach out to. So it's imperative that you're uh, giving your recruiters the tools and helping to kind of guide them so they can do what they do best, which is focus on the relationship side of things.
Yeah, I've been thinking about like your database in general, like maybe zooming all the way out, like how many people are in your database? Sometimes it's like 50 to 100,000 people. And if you think about what you've done already to collect that data, like you've spent money. And at one of the recent conferences when I was sitting there, the person that was talking, she said that when they went digging, they had found that the most recent people they had placed, they had paid a source for it, but they were already in their database. And that stinks, right? You might have these people. I mean, it's probably proven you do. You have them in your database. So using tools that allow you to really like keep nurturing those people, keep getting the right data, keep putting them with the right job. And if it changes, right, they're going to let you know. People love to let you know if something's changed, right? So utilize what's in your database. You've already paid for it. You already have people in there.
Yeah, I think that that's been one of the common themes in the last year is like how do we get a better ROI on our existing technology and or resources. And all of you have spent so much on building huge databases. I think Bullhorn released a stat on this. I don't remember the exact number, but it was somewhere around 10 to 30% of all placements that happen through job boards are they already existed in your you already had the contact in your database. So if you are trying to get more out of what you have today, this is a great path to go on. And then also just wanted to note that talent rates. We do surveys to candidates and to brand ambassadors, and what we consistently see back is that talent is rating the recruiter relationship as one of the most important factors in deciding who to work with. This does vary a little bit by vertical, but it is consistently that they want to have that relationship. And so the more that you can free up your recruiter's time to build relationships, the better off you're going to be.
Totally.
So
So you,
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Tapping into unique talent pools. So this is one that has a couple of different like areas that you can think about. What we saw last year with the way that the market was a lot of companies were coming to us and they're like, we have all these candidates, but we don't have anywhere to put them. And sometimes it's candidates that are maybe not necessarily easily identifiable as places you can put them. It might be a different vertical, or it might be a totally different sector altogether. But if you have enough data that you can look at it all and say, okay, wow, we really have a lot of this type of candidate, you can use that as a skill market opportunity and use it as a business development opportunity and go to a potential customer and say, hey, look, I'm sure you have a staffing shortage. Everybody does. Look at all of these people that I have that can go to work for you right now. They're ready. And that conversation, it feels really good for everybody involved. They're like, yeah, let's do it. Right. And then now you have a new contract, and it might be out of your comfort zone, but that's where all the good stuff happens, really. So that's one kind of like, tapping into the different talent pools that's already in your database, people already that want to work for you. So they're going to trust where you're going to offer to put them. But then also like going back to a little bit of being that resource, partner with different educational institutions like universities. This is a good one for like the nursing side of things or engineering, right? Getting in front of these about to graduate or newly graduated candidates that are coming into the workforce and becoming that resource to them that maybe they can't necessarily work for you right now, but as soon as they can and they're eligible, they absolutely will. Community organizations, such as like nonprofits. We have a customer that they actually had an ambassador that went out into her like nonprofit area and ended up becoming a huge referral person for this company because she didn't work for them, right? And that's one of the things about brand ambassadors, which is like this next little nugget. Brand ambassadors, and that's what we call them, people that are going out in the universe, basically like commission-only recruiters, people that are advocating for you and your team out in the universe. Your brand ambassadors don't necessarily have to work for you. And that's really where you can tap into that different network, these different pools of people, because think about what their network looks like, right? So in this example of this nonprofit, she worked for a nonprofit, became an ambassador for this company, and then all of a sudden she had referred 70 people and half of them had gotten placed. And that's like thinking outside the box, right? Thinking about what you can use that's at your fingertips.
Yeah, and I think so many staffing firms that we talk to are trying to figure out how to have better talent sources, but then they're going back to the job boards because it's what they know. And I think it's just so important to think about these partnerships more strategically. I was talking with the staffing shark yesterday with Richard Rosner about how he was talking about how he goes to his customers shows. He goes like manufacturing associations, and I think that looking at these different organizations and where are the candidates that you need to connect with and trying to be doing things that are unique to kind of a approach to staffing, and then figuring out how you can build different talent pools that are really help you reduce that dependency on job boards.
Absolutely.
And last up, I know we started with kind of measuring and making sure that you're looking at what the true cost of hire is. I just want to reinforce this, that you have to track your recruiting data. What gets measured gets done. And it's critical that as you're looking at your cost per hire and ways to reduce it, that you are including metrics like time to hire, looking at your redeployment rate, as well as the spend that you put in place on these. And I think if you aren't doing these things today, step one is to start measuring it so you have a baseline and start breaking it out by the different sources so that you can actually see where you should spend strategically. I know this is where all staffing firms are going. I think the faster you get to a spot where you can say, this is where we should allocate our spend, or this is where we should allocate our spend, the more effective and more profitable you're going to be as an agency in the long run.
Totally. What do we say? Data is king. Data is your insight to everything. And the more that you can identify what's going on, the more you can redirect and be more profitable.
Awesome. And that is it. That's closing slide for us. This is our quick hit webinar series. We will have another one. We might actually have two next week, but we'll be sending emails out about that. We'll also be sending a recording of this to all of you that registered and posting that on our website as well. Really appreciate you all joining, and thanks so much. Have a great day.
Bye, everyone.